Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Fan Friction. I'm your host, Jack Shipley, and we're happy to have you here with us today for Tea Time Battle for Blood. If you've never seen the show before, this is a movie debate program where our panelists will debate movies and fight it out for fan friction supremacy. Let me introduce today's fighters. Our first guest originates from Glasgow, Scotland. He's a voice actor and writer who mistakenly believes that Harry Potter is better than Star Wars. Come on, man. Please welcome to the show, Nolan Dean. Welcome, Nolan.
Woo! By the way, it's pronounced Glasgow, not Glasgow.
I'm American, and I reserve the right to mispronounce everything that's not from America. Our second guest originally hails from Liverpool, England. He works in the adult film industry and was nominated for an AVN Award for Best Director in 2013. Please say hello to my new best friend, Paul Holmes. Welcome, Paul.
Hey, Paulie.
Howdy. Don't let Ken hear you say that. You'll get very jealous.
Our final guest started in Bolton, but joins us today from Manchester, England. He's a film journalist in training and is the host of the Horror House podcast. Please say hello to Morgan Robinson.
Hello, everyone.
Yeah.
Hey, Morgan.
Welcome to the show, Morgan. Thanks for joining us. And checking our facts today, he's the Fan Friction Champion, which we will be putting that title on the line soon. And he's the host of the DVD Bunker, which is out every Friday here on TUFF. Please welcome back to the show, Brian Hurst.
Oh, hey, thanks, Jack. Thanks for bringing me back.
He's even more beautiful in person.
Oh,
Brian was the fact checker on our first show, and he is back again.
That's right. I've been fact checker, I've been host, and I'm the champ. So I live and breathe the TUFF channel. I'm going to be doing the fact checking thing and checking tweets and stuff. So you can follow me and follow the show at the hashtag #ThisIsTuff, TUFF.
Wonderful. Yeah, please tweet along with us during the show. We'd love to hear your thoughts, and please fight along with us. And there will also be a poll, so you can join in the poll and have your opinion weighed in. So, guys, without any further ado, we are going to start the Tea Time Battle for Blood with round one.
Woo!
Welcome to the show, guys. Who is the best actor to ever be knighted by the British Empire is our question for today, and we are going to start with Nolan. Nolan, who'd you pick?
Well, when I think of the best actor that's knighted, I got to think of an actor that brings presence to every role that he ever does. And, of course, I'm talking about everybody's favorite Marvel Cinematic Universe villain, Sir Ben Kingsley.
Nice. Do you want to take a second to tell us a little bit about Ben and some of his work?
Well, Ben Kingsley, like I said, he played the Mandarin in Iron Man 3. He won an Oscar for playing Mahatma Gandhi early in his career. And I believe he has also won one of the most awards out of any actor in his caliber. He's won 2 Golden Globes, a BAFTA, Screen Actors Guild. He's been nominated for an Oscar twice, and he's won the Oscar once for playing Mahatma Gandhi. So, safe to say, the guy's pretty good for his work.
Wonderful. Paul, who'd you pick?
Well, seeing how Tom Hardy is yet to be knighted, I went for someone called Maurice Micklewhite, better as Michael Caine.
Oh.
Tell us a little about Michael Caine.
Well, as Nolan said, he brings a gravitas to his craft. He's been in the industry for 60 years now, won countless awards. Nervous, yeah. And
All right.
he will always bring a performance. Doesn't matter what level of movie he's in, Michael Caine to be the guy to save the movie.
All right. And Morgan, who'd you pick?
I went with the correct answer, Sir Christopher Lee. Sir Christopher Lee, in terms of body of work, that he's unmatched. He was in over 230 films that spanned over 65 years. He was awarded a CBE in 2001. He was knighted in 2009. And he sadly, very, very sadly, passed away last year. That was hugely affecting for me, and I'll go into more in my main argument.
Well, it's time. Fight!
Okay, well, first of all, I want to say that Paul says that Michael Caine saves any movie he's in. I just want to ask him, Morgan, maybe you can back me up on this. Have you seen Jaws the Revenge?
Yeah, it brought him a nice house.
Absolutely terrible in that movie. And Christopher Lee, let's see. Christopher Lee, I can't really argue against because he has been in a lot of good movies. He's done a lot of great roles. He's one of the best character actors out there.
You can't argue against.
But Ben Kingsley, I believe, is ahead of him slightly based on the amount of awards he's received and for the way that he just brings a straight menace and a gravitas to everything he does. I'm not so sure if Christopher Lee brings as much gravitas as Ben Kingsley. They might or something like that. But I think with Ben Kingsley, you can talk a bit more about his work. I think he did more for the way he did it. He, like Gandhi and everything, I think was a bit more influential than some of the work that Christopher Lee's done. I'm only saying that because I haven't seen most of Christopher Lee's work. Please do not hate me, Twitter, and for God's sake, I'm going to stop talking. Paul, please stop me. Please stop me.
No, you're right. You're right. Sorry. You're right about Christopher Lee. Take away his horror hammer movies of the 70s. He was Scaramanga. That was good. Other than that, you cannot tell me he's been in very, very good movies. Been in loads. So is Ben Kingsley. If you mentioned Gandhi, he won the Oscar. You look between 1982 and 2000 Sexy Beast list, he did nothing of worth of note.
Correct. I'm with you there, Paul.
He gave good performances. They just weren't very good movies.
Who knows them? You can't tell me that Ben Kingsley has been in better movies than Michael Caine. You can go through Michael Caine's filmography and you'll see that Ben Kingsley has been in a hell of a lot more better movies. And he's still to this day.
Ben Kingsley was never in Jaws the Revenge, so he's got that ahead of him.
He was in the Love Guru.
I would say that
he was in the Love Guru.
I would say that Ben Kingsley has definitely been in better films than Michael Caine. Michael Caine's career has gotten worse and worse and worse since the 60s. Ben Kingsley, at least when he does come out and do something, which isn't a lot, at least he's decent in that. The candle to Christopher Lee.
And Michael Caine isn't.
He's a distinctive villain in cinema history. He has played Dracula 10 times. He has played Saruman in Lord of the Rings. Speaking of which, he read Lord of the Rings every single year from its publication up to his death. He played Dooku in the Star Wars prequels, arguably the best part of the Star Wars prequels.
There is no good part of the Star Wars.
Bring in a Star Wars reference when it's those Star Wars movies, but go ahead.
Christopher Lee is the master of an entire genre, and that genre happens to be the best in film. You talk about Ben Kingsley having gravitas and a presence. Christopher Lee has such an intimidating, towering presence. The man stood at 6'5". He was a powerhouse of an actor. You knew whenever he was about to come onto screen. It was incredible.
Well, there's one Ben Kingsley performance I can talk about that I believe sums up his entire career. And I know a lot of people have seen this. Everyone's got a lot of opinions on it. But for his role in Iron Man 3, I'd argue it's one of the smartest villains that Marvel has ever done. And part of that is due to Ben Kingsley's performance. He had to be menacing when he needed to be, and he was. He had to be funny when he had to be, and he was. Say what you will about how they treated the Mandarin character, but the way they did it was very smart and actually really worked in today's society, and Ben Kingsley's performance helped to do that. And without that, the Mandarin would have just been another forgettable MCU villain. And aside from that, he's done a lot of great performances in his other careers, like Hugo, Gandhi. I believe there's one he got nominated for an Oscar in 2003. I can't remember the name of it, but I'm sure Brian can probably fact-check me on that. But yeah, that's all I'm going to say for now. Ben Kingsley brings gravitas. He brings great performances. He's a great actor.
I will agree with you on the Ben Kingsley Mandarin role because I thought that was fantastic.
Oh yeah.
There's something similar with the Kingsman. If you look at Michael Caine in the Kingsman, he starts off as a gentleman, and then there's that one tiny little bit where he flips it, and you're like, I won't even say the word because it's a family show, but that tiny little thing, you need to know about Michael Caine. He can do whatever he wants.
Michael Caine has become a caricature of himself in recent
And
years.
Christopher Lee hasn't.
Christopher Lee's dead. He hasn't become a parody of himself.
Well, he did.
People just do bad impressions of Michael Caine. That is all Michael Caine is these days. You look at Michael Caine as Alfred. I don't like Michael Caine as Alfred. All he did was cry and lecture Bruce Wayne. Jeremy Irons was a better Alfred, and he was in Batman vs Superman for about 3 seconds.
No. Michael Caine he brought Batman down to earth. That Batman that was played by Christian Bale, went off the rails in my opinion. Caine's performance that brought him back down to earth. That speech about burning down the woods, brilliant speech. And I think if you go by, you said like he becomes a character because people can always quote him with great speeches. How many times can you say Ben Kingsley and Christopher Lee can have someone quote them for years and years on end?
You'll never see me coming.
Seen anything with Christopher Lee in? He's memorable.
I've seen lots of movies.
Simple thing he's in. All people do impressions of Michael Caine is him saying his own name. That is a Michael Caine impression.
And he is a nosy neighbour.
Speeches that Michael Caine gave. Christopher Lee, right? You can't argue that Christopher Lee isn't the best knighted actor. Come on, he epitomises what being a master of the craft is. You know, not only was he an actor, right? He served in World War II in the RAF. To cap it all off, he's a war hero.
That's got nothing to do with acting.
Doesn't have to do anything with acting. Who's the best knighted actor doesn't have to necessarily do with acting. He's a war hero as well.
Was he knighted for his performance in the war, or was he gone for movies?
War is...
Ben Kingsley played one of the most inspirational people of all time, and he won an Oscar for it. Christopher Lee probably could do that. Michael Caine could probably do that, but I think Ben Kingsley did it better.
Oscars don't mean anything. Christopher Lee...
What was that, Morgan?
Christopher Lee, basically, he was a genre actor. He didn't succumb to these Oscar roles like a Ben Kingsley might or a Michael Caine. He didn't have to do that. He's much more loved than both of these other actors you're mentioning because his career was so expansive. An actor in the entire world whose generations going back to the 50s to now will recognise his name and his look and his voice, his incredible, booming, intimidating voice.
Let's do some final thoughts. Nolan, tell me why Kingsley is better than Caine and Lee, and he's the best knighted.
Kingsley is better than Caine and Lee because Kingsley is the most diverse out of the two. Like we said, Michael Caine right now has become a parody of himself. People just make fun of his voice, do things like that. Christopher Lee, while he is fantastic, really just plays one type of character. He plays a menacing guy, and that's pretty much it. That's just what Christopher Lee does. Ben Kingsley can play funny. He can play menacing. He can play inspirational. He can even play ridiculous in things like the Box Trolls. And he showed this with the Mandarin. He was both funny and menacing when he needed to be, and that shows you how diverse of an actor he is. Whereas I think Christopher Lee and Michael Caine, they're both good, but they're not as diverse as Ben Kingsley.
Paul?
I would disagree because I think Michael Caine is quite diverse. If you look at his body of work, he actually does comedy with Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, which is a very, very funny movie. He plays menacing a lot, I will give you that. But, you know, as Christopher Lee does, Ben Kingsley does menacing as well. If you just put their body of work next to each other, you go on IMDb right now, 130 movies, but you could probably only name about 4 or 5 of them that were actually pretty any good. He started off brightly. Ben Kingsley started off brightly. Michael Caine stayed consistent right until this date. It's not his fault. People might parry them. But as you just said, Christopher Lee had a booming voice, so they're recognised by that as well. Each other, and I guarantee you'll come out and say, oh yeah, Michael Caine does have a lot more better movies than both of them.
All right, and Morgan, final thoughts.
You say put the body of work next to each other. I mentioned before, Christopher Lee was in 230 movies. 230. That shows real dedication to the craft of acting. More dedication than Caine or Kingsley ever showed. Ben Kingsley, Michael Caine, they're not that old, but these days, but they're in much less now. Christopher Lee worked until his dying day. No actor's death has ever affected me more than Christopher Lee's. I was in complete shock for about a week afterwards. It was ridiculous. Christopher Lee is by far the most memorable of these three actors. He's by far the most iconic, and he ran a genre.
All right, guys. Well done. Ryan, help me sort out the round with some facts.
All right. Well, I believe the Best Actor nomination from 2003 that Nolan was referring to for Ben Kingsley is House of Sand and Fog.
Yeah, that's the one.
Oscar wins. Ben Kingsley had the one for Gandhi. He was nominated for a couple others. Michael Caine actually has 2 supporting Oscar wins for Hannah and Her Sisters and Cider House Rules. Christopher Lee, I don't know that now. I'm not super into the nuance and the difference, but he's actually a knight bachelor, which I guess is the first level of being knighted, and then there are multiple. You can move up the ladder of being knighted. He was, in fact, 6'5". IMDb has him at 280 acting credits. And just so everybody knows, and this has nothing to do with his acting, but he put out multiple heavy metal albums. And I'm talking about, as an old man. 80-year-old Christopher Lee singing heavy metal. And that is just bad as hell. Take it out of the acting thing. Just everybody needs to know it,
That would make Dracula a lot better.
You can actually find those on YouTube as well. They're fantastic. What did Twitter have to say? What did Twitter have to say?
As he is wont to do, Samuel Catlin, our own Australian friend, wanted to call you out for this question being sexist, Jack, and let you know that his pick would be Angela Lansbury. The Juger and Janine.
We don't hate women, I swear we don't hate women.
No, we all love women. Unless you wait, I don't want to get down this rabbit hole. I don't know.
What else did Twitter say?
Yeah, I don't know whether this is going to weigh in on your is Michael Caine just an impersonation now, but both Langley and Joe pointed out that you can perfectly pronounce his name by saying my cocaine.
And that is true. I love Michael Caine. I think he's great, but if I'm deciding who's the best here, I have to say, Holmesy, that all you had to do is mention Miss Congeniality, and you would have been a lock for this round because Michael Caine.
Oh my God! Yeah.
But you forgot, and the other thing is that everybody mentioned the awards, and I think you forgot to mention his 2 supporting actor Oscars, which I think would have really helped Michael Caine's argument. So for me, it did come down to Nolan and Morgan. When I'm looking at the 2 bodies of work, we have awards on both sides. Both of you mentioned those awards. Where Nolan really focused on the role as of the Mandarin versus the role of Gandhi. I think we got more information about his Mandarin character than we did really about Gandhi, which is where he won the Oscar. Morgan gave me a lot more about his body of work, gave me tons of examples. He was even a war hero, and the passion for Morgan, for me, sells Christopher Lee the best. I'm giving Morgan the point. Congratulations, Morgan. You win round 1, sir.
I'm happy now. Can I just say before we move on how difficult it was to argue against Ben Kingsley? Ben Kingsley, incredible.
I know.
I think if I had gotten more about Gandhi there, I might have had an even harder time. This is definitely tough. So, guys, we're going to move on to round 2. Well done.
Are you interested in the poll, Jack?
Oh, yeah, thanks. I always forget about the poll. What is the poll?
Michael Caine won the poll.
He did.
Came in at 50%, 38% for Christopher Lee, and 13% for Ben Kingsley.
Wow.
All right, just ripped my heart out. Jesus.
Tell it to Twitter, man. Tell it to Twitter.
It's all Twitter's fault. All right, guys, round 2, the Oh Behave round. There have been 26 James Bond films made since 1962. Which one is the best? For this round, we are going to start with Paul. What'd you pick?
I picked License to Kill. Now, one of the reasons is I think it was Joe Starr that said Timothy Dalton is the best Bond, favorite Bond, and I totally agree. me, License to Kill was dark before Craig. It got rid of the nonsense that Roger Moore did. And it had, for me, other than like Blofeld and Odd Job, in Robert Davi. That movie is the best Bond movie. And it's got a freaking shark. You know, it's the best Bond movie you got.
All right. Morgan, what'd you pick?
I have gone with, again, the only correct answer, and that is Goldfinger. The Bond franchise bases itself upon being iconic. I'm struggling to think of a more iconic film, let alone an iconic Bond film. I'll go into more when we get into the main argument, but I'll just say this for now. Goldfinger is the most memorable, it's the most iconic, and it is easily the best Bond film.
All right. Nolan, what did you pick?
Okay, well, when I thought about this question, I had to think, what's not just a great Bond movie, but a great movie in general? I picked The Dark Knight of the Bond movies. The cinematography is great, the villain is great, each character works. I'm talking about Skyfall. Now, Skyfall was recently voted one of the best James Bond movies ever made, not just because it's a great Bond movie, but overall, it's a great movie. Is used to their full potential. M and Q are not just parts of like fillers, they're actually part of the plot, and their interactions with Bond work really well. The spoiler alert, the death of M in this movie is actually sad. When have you ever thought in a Bond film that the death of a Bond girl or someone who is filling in the Bond girl role was sad? With M, they made it sad. Silva is one of the best Bond villains to ever come. He's up there with Goldfinger for me as one of the best Bond villains. And it blends the grit and the fun of the series as well as it can. They tastefully managed to update Miss Moneypenny, who was just kind of a throwaway character, and she's also a part of the plot in here. It works better as a movie. Adele's song still holds up today, and Skyfall, everything about this movie just works.
All right, guys, fight.
Look, Skyfall isn't even the best Daniel Craig Bond. That's Casino Royale.
That's Casino Royale.
Thank you, Paul. What Skyfall does, Skyfall, yes, it is dark. It is a dark entry to the Bond franchise. But what you have to remember is that the Bond franchise isn't dark. It's supposed to be fun, action, live thrillers. Dark, weepy, oh look, M's dying. It's supposed to be a bit of fun, a bit of light-heartedness. Daniel Craig doesn't have any of that. Daniel Craig's Bond is more like Jason Bourne than the true James Bond. And Timothy Dalton as well. He's too violent. His films are too violent to be really well-adapted James Bond films. Goldfinger is the truest form of Bond. Yeah, you can say, oh, the Bond films of the 60s were a bit sexist. But, the Bond girl in Goldfinger, Pussy Galore, while the name is ridiculous, she is actually a kick-ass character. She is a Bond girl that actually does something, as opposed to all the throwaway Bond girls. I couldn't name the Bond girl in License to Kill. The Bond girl in Skyfall, apart from M, which doesn't really count as a Bond girl.
She's the closest they have to a Bond girl in that movie.
I don't care about Bond girls movie. I want to see a Bond movie. And I also like realism in movies. I mean, Skyfall, it's still Home Alone. Home Alone.
Only for the last part.
The most memorable thing for me the most memorable thing for me about Skyfall was Javier Bardem. He stole the show. To me, it's a Javier Bardem movie, not a Bond movie. And
I completely disagree with that. It's definitely a Bond movie.
You said something about
it stands out so much in Skyfall.
Javier Bardem was absolutely nonsensical. It lived and died by Bond being in the place that at the right time. I mean, that train sequence, as good as it was and shot as well as it was, it wouldn't have happened in real life because
most of the things that happen in the Bond movies wouldn't happen in real life. That's the point of them.
This isn't.
But I don't want to see that.
If you're going to bring realism up, then you might as well not talk about Bond films. What Bond films are cool spy. And the coolest spy thriller of these three choices is Goldfinger. It has the light-hearted moments that is required of a Bond film. It has the most memorable song, Shirley Bassey's Goldfinger. It has the most memorable henchman in Oddjob and his metal-rimmed bowler hat. It has the most memorable look of James Bond in the white tuxedo. It has the most memorable Bond car in the Aston Martin DB5. It has the most memorable Bond gadgets, the ejector seat, for example. I'm sorry if I'm sounding slightly repetitive, but all of that is true.
But is it the best Bond movie? There's a big difference between memorable and best.
What I'd like to get real quick from Holmesy here, tell me more about License to Kill, because I'm not hearing enough about your movie. Why is it better than Goldfinger and Skyfall?
Like I said, for me, I like realism. And in this one, you know, after a drug dealer, you know, he's not going after some guy who likes to collect gold cars or some guy who can make plans that just happen to come off. He's going after a drug dealer, and he does it well. I believe for the first time in a Bond movie that Bond could be beat. I mean, I watch Goldfinger, and I think, the bad guy, Oddjob, Skyfall, again, I agree, Skyfall's a great movie, but I just don't believe it. My movie, it's grounded in realism, it's dark. I like dark and Daniel Craig, which I think went against it at the time, because I don't think people, Roger Moore wasn't it anymore. I just think realism, for me, is key. I don't care about the gadgets, I don't care about the women. I want to see Bond kick some ass, and he does it, and he does it well.
License to Kill might as well be a John Wick spin-off. That's how dark and so not Bond it is. Timothy Dalton's Bond is just, it's like the DC movies. It's trying way too hard to be dark and edgy. That stuff just does not work for Bond. Skyfall gives you everything you want Bond. You want Bond who doesn't want to be beat? The first action scene, he gets shot off a train. You want a good Bond villain? You've got that monologue scene in the introduction of Raul Silva. Raul Silva is actually a great character. He's not just sitting there twirling his mustache, quoting about how he's going to kill Bond with a laser. Sorry, that's kind of a jab on Goldfinger. And, you know, I can't even remember the villain in License to Kill. Everything about Skyfall is memorable. The characters are a part of the plot. They're not just there for filler. Miss Moneypenny is updated well. Q is updated well. M actually feels like a character, and Judi Dench gives her all. The cinematography is great. The song is great. The action and the realism blends perfectly well to give you the best Bond experience, and that is why Skyfall is not only the best Bond movie, but probably the best movie overall in the series.
Look, that kind of sounds final thought-ish. If you're okay with that, Nolan, I'm going to get the other guys here. Morgan, give me your final thoughts on Goldfinger versus Skyfall and License to Kill.
Yeah. Right, you say Skyfall is the best movie. We're not talking about the best movie. We're talking about the best movie. Bond
and this one
is
everything you need.
Bond is a specific child of cinema, right? That's a bit strange, a bit weird, light-hearted. The best Bond is Sean Connery. Daniel Craig is not even James Bond. It's Jason Bourne. This is what people need to understand. Sean Connery.
That's subjective.
Goldfinger. Sean Connery, especially in Goldfinger, encapsulates the role. He is James Bond. He's the first face you think of when you hear the name James Bond. Gert Frobe as Ulrich Goldfinger is such an iconic villain, such a great villain, such a great Bond villain, because his plan is slightly ridiculous. All this realism talk shouldn't be brought up in a discussion about Bond movies. I'm done.
All right, Paul, final thoughts. Why is yours the best?
Right, well, Jason Bourne is just Timothy Dalton's James Bond, so we can all agree with that. But the reason why mine is better, I think, is like I said. I mean, maybe it's only me, but I like the realism. I like the fact that it was dark before it was time. Daniel Craig is great, but my Bond was dark before it. It's more believable. Lives are at stake. I think you might not remember him, but Robert Davi, I think, was a great bad guy.
Who?
Goldfinger and Gold Reserve plot, it's crap. Skyfall, no. There's real stakes. He can die, and there's a great white shark.
It's not a Bond film.
It is a Bond film.
My movie has a Komodo dragon. A Komodo dragon could kick a great white shark's ass.
And with that, we have ended round 2. Brian, can we fact check whether or not a Komodo dragon can take out a great white shark?
Oh, that's a good question. I guess it depends on where the fight takes place, right?
Also, Sharknado has a shark in it, and it's terrible.
They've made 4 of those. 4 Sharknadoes. All right, so Brian, give me some facts for this round.
Well, before we get started, I want to say the DVD Bunker doesn't support aggregate scoring, but I am going to read off some Rotten Tomatoes and Metacritic stuff here. Skyfall has a Rotten Tomatoes score of 93%. To Kill is 77%, and Goldfinger at 96%. But just to kind of throw that off a little bit, I also looked up Entertainment Weekly. They recently ranked with Spectre coming out, they recently ranked all the Bond movies. Skyfall came in at number 4. License to Kill came in at number 11. And Goldfinger came in at number 1.
All right. What did Twitter have to say?
First thing was that Ashley and Sam both wanted to call out Nolan for referring to Dame Judi Dench as a Bond girl.
Damn right.
They didn't
She can
appreciate
go out
that
there with
too
some of
much.
the best Bond girls.
Janine called out Casino Royale. Also, Hamza Juzer, he thinks that Dr. No, On Her Majesty's Secret Service, and GoldenEye are all underrated.
I like
They are underrated. GoldenEye's the only good one out of those.
On Her Majesty's is underrated.
All right. Do we have a poll for this round?
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't expect you. Did you want that now?
No. After I give you the thing, but I just wanted to pretend that I would remember it in 5 seconds. Okay, guys, this is a good round. For me, I try to eliminate one off the top. You guys had some similar arguments at times. I think the reason, though, that Nolan, yours isn't working for me is they all kind of hit you with the Casino Royale being the better pick, and I kind of agree. The Home Alone kind of made me laugh. And you said you called your movie The Dark Knight of Bond, and then you criticized Holmesy for being too dark. So for me, the Skyfall just kind of fell off for me, and it was between Paul and Morgan. Paul, I like the idea. I guess I never really looked at it as that movie being so grounded in realism. The idea that it's a drug dealer. I like that it's dark. I've always liked Timothy Dalton. I didn't think he got a long enough run personally, and he really does kick ass in that movie. And sharks. Morgan, you mentioned the iconic nature 4 times of Goldfinger. You gave me lots of facts. The song is still memorable. Pussy Galore being one of the best Bond girls ever. The Aston Martin, the gadgets. And I think for me, when I came down to it, I said, what is more Bond when I think of Bond? And I think, Morgan, not only did you say the word iconic, you gave me what was iconic about James Bond. You gave me the things we look for in our James Bond movies, and that's why Goldfinger is going to win the point. And Morgan, you win the point for the round. Nice job. What did the poll have to say?
Poll was split right down the middle, 50-50 for Skyfall and Goldfinger.
And License to Kill didn't get any love. I like that movie.
It's okay,
no,
Holmesy, we
nobody
love
likes
you.
that Timothy Dalton.
It's okay.
Skyfall. I'm sorry. I do. I've argued against a film that I love again.
I've always
He's
loved...
more like John Wick than he is Bond in that movie.
I liked how different Timothy Dalton was. I always thought it was just like, oh, this is like a cool direction. Like they didn't screw it up when they switched from Roger Moore, but people did not take to it. He only got 2 films, right? License
Yeah,
to
two,
Kill.
yeah.
License to Kill, and what was the other
And
one?
Living Daylights.
Living
Living
Daylights. That's
Daylights.
right. Oh. Okay, sorry. I will never do that again. Round 3. This is my, I call this the BBC round. If you're noticing, by the way, if you're watching this at home, there's a theme. They're all British. American remakes of British television shows happen all the time. So I wanted to know, this question, by the way, was inspired by Joe Davis, our very own Joe Davis from BFF. Which is the best American show based on a program Britain did first? And in this round, we are going to start with Morgan.
Right, I am a lover of comedy television above all other forms of television. And the finest sitcom in American history is All in the Family. That is based off a British show that aired from, I think, 1962 to 72, called Till Death Do Us Part. All in the Family, basically, did what Till Death Do Us Part was doing in Britain in its social commentary, and extended it over to the States and made it so much better. Archie Bunker is one of the most recognisable TV characters of all time. The sitcom, when it's done well, relies on a social commentary element to it. But bad sitcoms don't even think about that. But the truly good ones, like All in the Family, have that social aspect to them. That is why All in the Family is the best adaptation of a British show.
All right. Nolan, what did you pick?
Right, y'all. Well, my choice is about to blow the minds of some of the people on Twitter here because my American adaptation, people don't even remember that it was a British one. And, of course, I'm talking about Mr. Frank Underwood's House of Cards, if y'all know what I'm saying. And now, it's the best American adaptation of a British show because no one even remembers that it was a British show. You think Kevin Spacey, you think Corey Stoll, you think of Fincher's great directing in those first 2 episodes, you think of how great the show has become, how memorable it is. It pretty much launched Netflix original shows. But I think without House of Cards, we wouldn't have things like Stranger Things or other shows like that coming out. House of Cards is loved all over America, it's loved all over the world, and no one even remembers that it was a British thing.
All right. And Paul, what'd you pick?
Right, well, let me just say first, I hate reality TV shows, but I've picked one. I've gone for Hell's Kitchen because I think everyone loves a cooking show. You can laugh, but you laugh at Gordon Ramsay and see what he does to you.
I've worked in a kitchen, so it brings back bad memories.
Me too. But you know, it's got everything you want. It's a competition. You know, you've got ridiculous contestants. You have great food sometimes, and you have Gordon Ramsay kicking off all the time. What more can you want to watch?
Good food, which they never give.
All right, guys, fight.
Well,
Hell's Kitchen is the bottom of the barrel of television. It is the scum of television. Reality TV is garbage.
I agree.
Every single person in the entire world knows that reality TV is garbage. Why you're arguing for Hell's Kitchen is completely beyond me. House of Cards as a British show, no, it's not remembered for that. But I think an important part of this question is that both shows are memorable. Till Death Do Us Part is a very, very memorable British sitcom. Did something happen then?
Sorry, that was my, the Enterprise contacted me. Never mind.
Okay.
Oh, God.
Sorry.
Till
That's
Death
my
Do Us
text.
Part.
It just went off. I apologize. Go
Till
ahead.
Death Do Us Part created one of Britain's most well-loved horrible characters. Alf Garnett, played by Warren Mitchell, is a legendary character in British television. But like I say,
And it's a shame that he is.
Was made better when it went over to the US. All that was made better, and it was already memorable in the UK. To do that with a sitcom is incredible. You look at some of the guest stars that All in the Family had. That is a big part of sitcoms. The Sammy Davis Jr. episode had so much relevance to it at the time. It is the perfect sitcom.
It may be the perfect sitcom, but House of Cards, I think, is the perfect show. It mixes drama, comedy, and even a little bit of tension with all those Fincher directing things and way that Fincher inspired it. It has great performances across the whole board. Kevin Spacey this is probably one of his best-known roles. Hell's Kitchen, I hate watched that show. I watched that the same way I would watch X Factor. You watch that just to make fun of it. Most of those chefs in there can't even cook. It's all stage. It's terrible. You might as well be watching the roast of Gordon Ramsay. That would probably be better. And Hell's Kitchen is just, like X Factor, like Keeping Up with the Kardashians. It's just made to get in ratings. It's not even funny. It's actually very inaccurate to what a kitchen is like. And well, I can't really talk so much about All in the Family. I actually haven't seen it. But when you're talking about great sitcoms, they tend to do something like with comedy. They make comedy really great. I think House of Cards manages to mix drama and comedy and tension really well to give you an overall better experience.
I personally feel All in the Family. I actually think that Until Death Do Us Part, I think it's a shame that those two are so well known, because I don't like the social commentary that they were doing. And I think they were liked for the wrong reasons at the time, because back in the 70s in England, racism was rife. And I think a lot of people outgone it and went with it. I think the same happened in America with whoever Archie Bunker is. Right?
People were laughing at Alf Garnett. People were laughing at Archie Bunker. That was the whole point.
Some people were, but I guarantee you, a lot of people looked up at that in the wrong way. I picked because.
Sorry, what, Paul? I missed the last part you said. Oh, I think I may have lost Paul there.
Can you hear me?
Oh, there we go. Okay, you're back. I missed the last couple things you said, Paul. You broke out there for a moment.
I can't remember exactly where it was at that point. I said, I think a lot of people watch that show agreeing with it, which I think, I honestly do. I think the reason I picked Hell's Kitchen was because it might not be realistic, it might not, but I like to watch it. I can watch it any time of the day. I can be working and it'll be on. I can, anytime.
I can watch a video of a guy getting hit in the nuts on YouTube. Doesn't mean it's good.
Gordon Ramsay is must-view TV. You can talk about House of Cards. I actually watched the first two series of that, and it didn't blow me away. I think if you take out Kevin Spacey, I think that is an average show. Makes that show.
I completely disagree with you there, dude.
I agree.
No, my show is now on its 15th series. That shows you how popular it is.
Because people like watching people get yelled at by Gordon Ramsay. That's nothing new.
So what's wrong with that? If people enjoy it, 15 series, let's go. Kevin Spacey, I think, honestly, Kevin Spacey, great actor. Show.
I'm sorry, Kevin Spacey is a great actor, and then what?
He's the only good thing about that show.
Yeah, he is. You talk about House of Cards. Spacey does make House of Cards what it is. House of Cards isn't particularly excellent around Spacey. That's just the truth. It's also boring in parts, quite frankly.
That's completely subjective, dude. It doesn't only have Spacey. It's got Kate Mara, Reggie, Kathy, Corey Stoll, Robin Wright. The whole cast gives great performance. It's not just Kevin Spacey who's won Emmys for this. And you've also got one of the greatest filmmakers of all time who filmed the first two episodes, which just set the stone for how great this show could become. It's lasted, I believe, for more than, I think it's coming up for its 5th season. For a Netflix
Yeah, this
show,
fifth season, yeah.
that was based on a British show that nobody even remembers. To jump to that
Very good.
is incredibly ambitious, and I think it's a lot better than what Hell's Kitchen or All in the Family did, despite how good they may be. I don't like Hell's Kitchen. I haven't seen All in the Family, so I can't really comment on that.
Well, All in the Family is the definitive American sitcom. Norman Lear in the 70s, the producer, he owned the TV scene that decade, and it was because of All in the Family. All in the Family is the perfect light-watching television. You just stick an episode of All in the Family on, it'll make you laugh, it'll make you cry. You'll love Archie Bunker because he's just insane in the stuff he says. Paul, what you bring up about people going along with the thoughts of Alf Garnett and Archie Bunker is absolutely ridiculous. You have some sort of really morbid outlook on the world if you think everyone is as racist and bigoted as those two men.
Everybody, but
All in the
I think quite a few.
All in the Family also, it had the spin-off, Archie's Place, which lasted for a couple of seasons, which, as we know, spin-offs don't tend to be great, but it had the backing to get that spin-off. All in the Family is just, it's a definitive television show. And House of Cards, like I say, when Kevin Spacey's not on screen, it ain't great. And Hell's Kitchen's just garbage, like no one said.
All right, so let's go for final thoughts. Morgan, so why is your show better than Nolan's and Paul's?
Oh, I thought those were my final thoughts.
Oh, well, that's fine.
I took that as my final thought.
All right, then Nolan, why is yours better than All in the Family and Hell's Kitchen?
Well, it's better than Hell's Kitchen because Hell's Kitchen, like we said, is garbage, and people only watch it pretty much like they hate watch X Factor. House of Cards is better than All in the Family. I'm kind of saying this because I've not even seen All in the Family, but I'm going based on what a sitcom is. It blends comedy, it blends drama, it gives you tension. You have Kevin Spacey giving one of his best performances. The whole cast gives great performances. The whole thing transcends just being a TV show. The cinematography on House of Cards is like something I would expect to see in the theater. When I watched the first 2 episodes, it felt like I was watching David Fincher and falling in love with him all over again. And if y'all can't see that, then I believe you're just blind to me being with Frank Underwood and all my Hollywood friends. Sorry, that was terrible, but yeah, House of Cards is perfect.
I can do a question of Archie Bunker too if you want, but I'm not going to embarrass myself.
Just knock twice, and we'll move on to Paul. Paul, your final thoughts.
Mine is like comfort food, right? You know, it's not good for you, right? You shouldn't eat it, but you will enjoy it. You can say it's garbage, but you will enjoy it. My show is absolutely, completely different from the English version because the English version was a terrible show for celebrities. This one made it into a competition where someone can win a restaurant. Well, now they go to work for Gordon Ramsay.
And lots of raw scallops.
And lots of what?
He does that.
Lots of raw scallops and raw everything, raw humor, raw everything.
Was that everything you wanted to say, Paul?
No. My show is also a show you can watch any time of the day. I mean, I quite often can sit down, watch it while it's on, and enjoy watching Gordon Ramsay berate some guy. That is the only reason to watch it. You can say it's rubbish, but you will enjoy it.
All right, guys. Well done. Round 3 is in the books. Brian, tell me some facts for this round.
Oh, House of Cards was the first Netflix show and is a current Emmy darling. It just won a bunch of Emmys. It's won 6 Emmys. There's 1 Golden Globes. But All in the Family also has 8 Golden Globe wins and 22 Primetime Emmys to its name. Shockingly, Hell's Kitchen has an Emmy nomination, so I was surprised to see that. Good for them.
What?
For what? Definitely not best food.
I don't know. Better than being a hammer in the head? I don't know.
What did Twitter have to say in this round?
Samuel Catlin, constantly weighing in, almost to the point of getting on my nerves, mentioned he really likes Shameless.
That's good.
That was my second choice.
Lovin Yeah, Casey Loving was surprised that nobody mentioned The Office, but then Joe Davis countered that with saying that he's glad nobody took the low-hanging fruit, and everybody went off the map a little bit on that. So I appreciate that as well. Let me see if anybody else. To the point, Joe also said to the point of taking out Kevin Spacey, that goes for the other shows too. If you take out Archie Bunker or if you take out Gordon Ramsay, you ruin all three shows by taking out the main character. So that's kind of, he was counteracting that whole argument.
All right, guys, this one was tough. There's no doubt about it. I hate All in the Family.
Why?
And I'm like, but it's all right. We're going to let this one go and see what happens. But Holmesy did what I was hoping would do. It has been an offensive show, and the racism has been called out on that show before. I think for me, the social commentary, it is definitely not the definitive American sitcom, which is something you had said, Morgan. So for me, it came down to House of Cards and Hell's Kitchen. But you already have 2 points, Morgan, so don't feel too bad about it. Between House of Cards and Hell's Kitchen, everybody was saying garbage, but 15 seasons of garbage is still 15 seasons. So Paul is definitely in this. It's comfort food. It's entertaining. It is funny, and you do like watching Gordon Ramsay berate people. House of Cards, you guys were saying that it's only as good as Kevin Spacey, but Nolan pointed out, rightly so, that there's actually great cast members, including Robin Wright. Mara is very good in it. It does have Emmy wins, and the drama and performances are really good in House of Cards. So when I'm trying to think of the two, while I'm okay with the garbage level of Hell's Kitchen, I think you can't really deny that House of Cards has done something special, especially for Netflix. And no one called out to House of Cards that their two previous seasons, 3 and 4, were crappy. So since no one hit you on that, Nolan, I'm giving you the point. You win round 3. Congratulations. Woo! So I
bet Twitter hate me for that accent. I'm really sorry.
It's quite all right. What did Twitter say? What was the poll results, Brian?
Oh, yeah, sorry. I was looking at other tweets, but I got it. It's right here.
I see how it is.
Well prepared. House of Cards ran away with it, 83%.
I kind of figured it would.
The other 17% went to All in the Family. No love for Hell's Kitchen.
I'll tell you what, though, Paul. You argued your show very well, and so you still did a nice job there. I'm sorry you didn't get the point.
I was actually going to mention season 3 and 4, but then you went to Final Thoughts, and I just thought I'd keep it about my show.
Oh, that was the chance to do it.
I had a friend who was on Hell's Kitchen once, and he said like most of it was staged. So there that is.
I've heard a lot of that.
Based on all this.
But okay, so let's go into our final round 4. This is my International Man of Mystery round, which means absolutely nothing. And the question is, what is the best film by a British director? And we're going to go back to Nolan for this round to start.
Well, I'm picking a movie from my favorite director of all time, my favorite movie of his, and the movies that I will watch without comparison. I'm talking about Edgar Wright's Hot Fuzz. This is one of the most well-paced, has the most heart, has the best world building, and is one of the greatest British action movies of all time. Nobody, I repeat, no one does visual comedy like Edgar Wright. His movies are both fun to watch for people who are just regular moviegoers, and they can be analyzed in the same way that you would analyze a movie of higher class, like 2001: A Space Odyssey, Clockwork Orange, anything like that. There's something in Edgar Wright's movies for everyone. You got fun characters, mostly with Simon Pegg, Nick Frost, and the great supporting cast that they managed to bring on to every one of the Cornetto trilogy and Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. You great performances, and Hot Fuzz, it has honestly one of the best and most ridiculous final acts that it just has to be seen to be believed. And you guys can go now.
All right. Paul, what did you pick?
I went for a movie I don't think many people realize was directed by a Brit, and that is The Raid. 2011. It is one of the best action movies that has ever been captured on film. It is one of the movies that transcends being just a Asian movie and has captured hearts in Western society. It will go on to actually show Americans how to make a movie, which is something I think is lacking for a very, very long time.
All right. And Morgan, what did you pick?
I went with the best film by the best director of all time, let alone from Britain. Rear Window, 1954, by the master of suspense himself, Mr. Alfred Hitchcock. You think that The Raid and Hot Fuzz hold a candle to Rear Window, and you are sorely mistaken.
All right, guys. Well, then fight it out.
Right, well, I'm just going to say straight off
down
the
Alfred
bat,
Hitchcock.
Hot Fuzz isn't even Edgar Wright's best movie. That is Shaun of the Dead.
Hot Fuzz is slightly above Shaun of the Dead.
No, it's not. Edgar Wright is someone I do not love for Edgar Wright. I don't think he is that great of a director. You take away and Nick Frost, and they're as fun as you might think they are. Those two, with the chemistry they have, make.
Yeah, I'm going to echo what Paul said there. Edgar Wright is certainly a very overrated director. Those films are Pagan Frosts, and like Paul also said, Hot Fuzz is not even the best of the Cornetto trilogy. That is Shaun of the Dead.
I think Hot Fuzz is much better than Shaun of the Dead. Shaun of the Dead has the great beginnings of an Edgar Wright movie, but Hot Fuzz ups you on the action, ups you on the heart. It has better characters. And you don't just need Peg and Frost to make a good Edgar Wright movie. Look at Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. That's one of the greatest movies of 2010, and people still watch it today. It's now become a cult classic.
It's
Edgar
terrible.
Wright
It
call
is terrible.
Edgar, no, it's not. It's not terrible. It is not terrible.
It is. The only good thing is the guy who used to be Superman, Brandon Routh. He's the only good thing about that movie.
I would disagree with that wholeheartedly. That movie has a great cast.
So tell me more about The Raid, Paul.
The Raid is one of the best action movies you can see. It has a plot for people that haven't seen it, similar to Judge Dredd, in that they have to go into a high-rise building and get the guy at the top. Is by himself because all of his comrades have been, and each level is it's like an action. It's actually a video game. Each level has its own boss, and it can take them out. It has the drama
like a video
of
game.
trying to save them.
The
In a movie
Raid
form.
is essentially a video game on film.
Action is phenomenal, and the awards it's won. You go and have a look now. It's won so many awards, not just for action. What other things? Action movies are a very underrated genre because people see them as dumb and stupid. The action and the thought that went into it, you will not beat. The choreography is balletic at times. You know, you look at it and you think, yeah, America want to remake it. They shouldn't. They should just put hate up movies, but this movie deserves to be seen by a lot more people because of the way that action is shot. It is phenomenal.
Right.
The Raid is great action choreography. You could look up action choreography and you've seen The Raid. The Raid, without the action, is just a pretty standard action movie. With Hot Fuzz, you don't only have great action. You've got great characters. You've got a great cast. You've got great score. You've got great visual comedy, which Edgar Wright is a master at. Rear Window is fantastic, but unlike what Alfred Hitchcock's movies, you have to be in a certain mindset to be able to watch Rear Window. And it's really only for a certain type of audience. If you showed that to a general audience today, I don't think it'd be as well received. Whereas if you put an Edgar Wright movie in front of any audience, most of them will love it, unless they are... The only way I can see you not loving Edgar Wright is if you have no soul.
Look, it's not Edgar Wright that people love about Edgar Wright films. It's Pagan Frost. Look at Rear Window. You say, oh, you can't put Rear Window in front of a general audience and they like it. It's not one of the most well-renowned films of all time for no reason. That opening to Rear Window is perfect establishment filmmaking. Absolutely perfect. In the first 2 minutes, you know everything that's going on in that apartment block. Everything you need to know about Jimmy Stewart's character. You know everything you need to know about Grace Kelly's character. Speaking of which, Jimmy Stewart and Grace Kelly, both phenomenal actors giving phenomenal performances. This is arguably Jimmy Stewart's best ever performance. The tension in Rear Window is so extreme. You are with Jimmy Stewart all the way, literally looking out of his window. It is perfect filmmaking. Hot Fuzz is a decent comedy film, but isn't the best of the Cornetto trilogy. And The Raid is excellent action choreography and simply nothing else.
Oh, I will disagree with that. There's a scene in The Raid, right? This will tell you how good this director is. There's a scene where they're all on a landing strip. They've come up a flight of stairs. They can't see anything. The bad guys can't see them. It shoots up. It lights up the apartment block. The bad guys above see exactly where they are, and they obliterate them. And you will say that is phenomenal filmmaking.
Hot Fuzz has like 13 or 14 or 15 other scenes that are just as great as that. Shaun of the Dead is not the best Edgar Wright movie. Hot Fuzz is a level above it, but they're both pretty good. Hot Fuzz is the most complete out of the Cornetto trilogy. You've got great characters, a great villain, great supporting cast, great visual comedy, great soundtrack, great homages to other great action films. I believe there might even be an homage to Rear Window in there. And it's not just Peg and Frost that make Edgar Wright films good. You put Edgar Wright, give him anything, he will film it with a great style. He'll make it fun for everybody. I think Rear Window, absolutely fantastic movie, but it's not as fun for everybody as it is with Hot Fuzz. With Hot Fuzz, you've got the mystery, you've got the comedy, you've got the horror. You've even got some pretty good gore. You've got great characters, great everything. Hot Fuzz is the best of the Cornetto trilogy. There we go.
We're not talking about fun movies here. We're talking about quality, bare-faced quality. And
no one does quality like Edgar Wright.
In terms of quality of filmmaking, nothing compares to Hitchcock. Absolutely nothing. And Rear Window,
for a certain audience, yes.
Watch Rear Window. I would stick on The Birds. I would rather watch The Birds with Tom Hanks than I would watch Rear Window. Similar movie, and I prefer it. I think it's a lot more fun.
Right, okay. Right. Rear Window. Cinematography, phenomenal. The score, Bernard Herrmann, one of the most legendary composers in film history, gives it's a phenomenal score again by him. It is so well shot. Film is visual. That is what film is. Rear Window,
yeah,
best film of these three.
Nolan, let's start with some final thoughts. Why is Edgar Wright's Hot Fuzz better than The Raid and the Rear Window? Excuse me.
Well, I can say that The Raid, without its action, it's a pretty standard movie. Rear Window, as great as it is, not everybody would want to watch that on a film night or go out to see that. If that wouldn't be their first choice to see, I think Edgar Wright's Hot Fuzz gives something for everybody. It gives you something for the horror fans, the genre fans, the comedy fans, the mystery fans, everything. Edgar Wright gives you everything that you want to see in a movie, plus an incredible visual style that proves he is the king of visual comedy. This man can do no wrong. Those are my final thoughts.
Apart from a Marvel movie.
Paul, final thoughts.
Low blow, man. Low blow.
I have to go there, man. I'm behind. If you look at these two unknown people, right? They decide to make a movie together to star them. One of them actually gets to be in a Star Wars movie because of it. It's just an action movie, but the visual, the choreography, the way it is shot without shaky cam for an action movie is the bane of my life. Well done. It is absolutely fantastic. Not since Bruce Lee. I love Jackie Chan, but not since Bruce Lee it's crossed over to the Western audience. It will be a classic for future to come. You say people won't watch it, but they should, because the fight scenes, balletic. The way he shot it, like the example I gave before with the muzzle flash, letting them know where they all are. Watch this movie as an action movie and how an action movie should be shot. So it should be shown to people.
So it should be shown to people. Was that the last thing you said? Because it might have cut out.
Yeah. The reason being, it's an action movie. It should be shown because of the way it was shot as an action movie, to show it's more than just an action movie.
All right. Thank you. Sorry about that. And then Morgan, your final thoughts.
Okay, you want phenomenal storytelling. You want phenomenal character development. You want a phenomenal direction, cinematography, tension creating, music in film. You are going to Rear Window out of these three. Out of The Raid, which aside from action choreography, is just something on screen. Or Hot Fuzz, not the best of the Cornetto trilogy. I know which one my money on.
All right, guys, well done. Before we do fact checks real quick, Morgan, if you have a light in your room and you don't mind, can you please turn it on?
Yeah.
I know it's getting dark there in the UK.
He looks like a Hitchcock film right now.
Yeah, I know. Right now, he perfect. Much better. Thank you, Morgan.
Also,
Anyway,
way to inspire Disturbia, then I hate it forever.
Brian, talk about some facts that we heard in this round.
All right. Well,
Oh, the dramatic pause as Brian's feed gets captured. I didn't hear that, Brian. You got to start over.
Yeah, I mean, I was just saying that, I always like to go and get the much-loathed opinion of Rotten Tomatoes when we're doing what's best. Hot Fuzz came in at 91%. The Raid came in at 85%. But Rear Window has 100%. You're telling me there's not a single person, and I checked, there's like over 60 critics or something that have, and not one of them had like a 99 or a 97. Like, I just don't understand that. But apparently it has 100%.
Wow.
In the argument, is Hot Fuzz the best of the Cornetto trilogy as far as when you're talking about aggregate reviewing? It's split. Rotten Tomatoes has Shaun a little bit higher than Hot Fuzz, but Metacritic has it a little bit lower than Hot Fuzz. So,
what did Twitter have to say?
Well, both Ashley and Raul both wanted to say they love Hot Fuzz. Hamza Juicer was hitting us up with lots of good choices: Alien, Blade Runner, American Beauty, Monty Python and the Holy Grail. These are all good stuff. And let's see, Hercules at the DVD bunker said he saw Scott Pilgrim for the first time a couple of weeks ago, and he could see how you would really love it if you were 16 when it came out.
I love that movie. I still love that movie.
I'm sure.
It's the perfect date movie.
It grows on you, that movie. Okay, guys, well fought. This is a difficult round. Nolan, tough. I got news for you, buddy. I can't stand Hot Fuzz compared to Shaun of the Dead. But I gave you a fair shot. But if no one had said Shaun of the Dead was the better movie, then you would still be in better contention. However, both of them pointed it out. I personally agree with them. So for me, it came down to Paul and Morgan.
Okay.
Paul, the real reason though here, Nolan, too, is you picked what you've considered to be your personal favorite of that trilogy, and you really argued its personal connection to you, but you didn't necessarily compare it enough to the other two for me. So that's really why, Paul and Morgan, it comes down to you guys. I didn't want it to be unfair, like, oh, Jack doesn't like the movie, so you don't get a point. Because Sam Catlin's going to tell me that in the Twitter. So, Paul, it's like Dread. There's a video game-like quality to it. You mentioned the cinematography, which is really superior. And as far as action fight scenes go, The Raid has some of the best that I've ever seen. Morgan, you talk about established filmmaking, especially in the beginning, how the way he tells a story. It has Jimmy Stewart, Grace Kelly. They did mention, the 100% is hard to argue with. You mentioned well shot. And when I considered that between both of the movies, both of them are kind of equal in their cinematography. They both are doing something good for their genre. Hitchcock with suspense, and The Raid with the way that it shows fight scenes. So for me, it came down to the one piece that was left, and that's storytelling. And while the fight scenes are fantastic, there's just not enough storytelling compared to Hitchcock's Rear Window. That's why, for me, Rear Window is the clear choice as the best. And Morgan, you get the final point. Congratulations. So here's what that means, guys. I don't get to read the really awesome question I wrote for tiebreaker trivia. Paul, you did a fantastic job today, though. So even though you didn't get any points, don't feel bad. You did a great job. I'm gonna need your help in the final rounds here. Morgan, because you got 3 points, you get the bonus in the speed round of being able to choose whether to go first or second once. So if you're going second and you'd rather go first, you can say I'd rather go first, or you can vice versa. Okay, so you can do that one time here in our speed round. And we're going to get to that right now. By the way, guys, 2 hours or 1 hour and 10 minutes so far. We might get this show in an hour and a half. So, woohoo! Go us. Let's see if we can make it happen with the lightning round. So, Brian, it's 20 seconds and 10 seconds on the clock. You'll be our timekeeper for this round. And we go to round 1 of the lightning round. What is the best Monty Python movie?
Life of
Holy
Brian.
Grail.
Okay, I heard different choices. Nolan, what did you say?
Holy Grail.
Okay, and you were Life of Brian?
Yeah.
Okay, and Brian, who did you hear first?
I heard Morgan first.
Okay. Morgan first with Life of Brian. All right, guys. Morgan, 20 seconds. It starts when you start talking.
Life of Brian was really when the Monty Python crew honed their craft. They started with Holy Grail. That is a good film. Life of Brian is a better film than that. It was so controversial at the time. It has one of the most famous quotes in British cinema history.
Time.
Nolan.
Monty Python and the Holy Grail, it started off the thing because it is the best movie of the series. It's the most memorable, it's the most iconic, it's the one that you rewatch the most. Monty Python and the Holy Grail all the way.
You have plenty of time left.
And I don't remember Life of Brian as that much. Holy Grail is much better.
Okay, rebuttal from Morgan.
Holy Grail is far less memorable than Life of Brian. In Life of Brian, you've got the haggling scene, the scene with the naked old man, the scene at the end of the cross. Always look on the bright side of life, guys. You've got...
Nolan, 10 seconds.
Without Holy Grail, you wouldn't have any of that. Holy Grail is the better one of the two. It's the most memorable. It's the most iconic. It's the reason Monty Python exists.
All right. Paul, what would you pick of the two?
Well, my personal favourite is the one that Morgan chose, but on the arguments, I have to give it to... My personal favourite is the one Nolan chose, but on the arguments, I have to give it to...
I'm sorry, who did you give it to?
Morgan.
Morgan. Okay. Brian?
I'm going to go the other way and make it hard on you. I actually had Nolan based on the arguments.
For me, it came down to, I heard way more specifics about Life of Brian. I heard about actual scenes in Life of Brian. All I heard from Nolan was that it was iconic and it was the best, but no reasons actually why it was the best, no examples. So for me, Morgan, you get the point for round 1. Well done.
I've never seen a Monty Python movie.
You've never seen a
I
Monty
wanted to hear
Python
about
movie? You get out of the Battle of the Brits right now. You know what, Paul? You're going to take over for the rest of the speed round. Nolan is disqualified. How can you not have seen a Monty Python movie? Wow.
My parents never showed me it.
You revoke your citizenship from your country right this minute. And get
You
in there.
didn't mention the Black Knight.
Yeah, anything. Come on, man. All right. That's okay. We'll let it go. That's only the first point. There's plenty left. Round 2. What is the better Stephen Moffat-run TV show? Doctor Who or Sherlock?
Sherlock.
Sherlock.
All right, I heard Sherlock from Morgan first, I believe. And then, so you get Doctor Who, Nolan. Hope you've seen Doctor Who. It's only one of the most popular shows in Britain, the place you're from.
I haven't seen it. Yeah.
Okay. Now I'm mocking you. I'm sorry. Also, I want to remind Morgan that you do have the special bonus thing, but if you want, you get to go first.
Yeah.
Okay. You're first whenever you're ready.
Okay, Sherlock is better than Doctor Who. Sherlock is a wonderful modern adaptation of such an iconic character. Benedict Cumberbatch and Martin Freeman play off each other so well as Sherlock and Watson. If you want some serious, great watching television, watch a Sherlock. Watch an episode of Sherlock for a great mystery.
Time.
Go along with it.
Nolan.
Oh, God. Doctor Who gives you great mysteries great fun, great science fiction, and something for everybody. You've got great performances from David Tennant, Matt Smith, Peter Capaldi, and all the other older Doctors. You have great villains with the Dalek and the Master. Sherlock is great, but it's only as great as its villain and as its main character.
I'm just waiting for Brian to tell me.
Now
time.
he's got time. Yeah, I was going to give him his full 20 seconds.
Yeah, that's why I was waiting, just in case. Morgan, 10-second rebuttal.
Doctor Who went completely downhill after David Tennant. Sherlock has the writing quality, it has the cinematography quality, it has the storytelling. The Doctor Who doesn't have. Doctor Who looks like it's bad.
Nolan.
Sherlock went downhill in season 3. Doctor Who actually, I thought Matt Smith was a better Doctor. David Tennant's great, Matt Smith's better. Doctor Who is ultimate British fun. It's the ultimate British show. Great villains, great fun premise. It's great everything.
Time.
Doctor Who's the best.
Wow, that's close for me. Brian, what did you pick?
You know, I think I'm gonna have to go with Morgan because there's a couple things I wanted to hear from Nolan about like how it had endured a lot longer, how it wasn't based on an adaptation, it was on its original property, that it was successful. So if I'd have heard those points, I probably could have, because he had some good things to say, but he just missed a couple of key things that I thought could have tipped the scales.
Hey, it's not an adaptation. It's been on for ages.
Hey, Paul, what did you pick?
Going for Nolan, because I don't think I heard much from Morgan about why Sherlock is the best, apart from the chemistry is quite good.
Yeah, this is tough. I'm going to have to split this one, huh? Wow, Brian, Brian brings up some really good points, but I still think I got a little more from Nolan. He was able to mention a lot of the Doctors, which is great. But the fun, I think that's what it really came down to for me was, this is like a really fun show and it's endured. So I'm giving it to Nolan. Good job, Nolan. That was tough. That was a really tough round.
I actually grew up on the same street as David Tennant.
Oh, did you really? Fun fact, he married the fifth Doctor's daughter.
He did.
Yeah, Peter Davison's daughter. Okay, so now that we've nerded out, that's 1 point for Morgan, 1 point for Nolan, and we're going to round 3. All right, guys, you ready? Listen to the full question because there's more than it's an either or, but I'm going to give you 3 options, not 2. Who plays the better Alfred? Michael Gough, Jeremy Irons, or Michael Caine?
Michael Caine.
All right, I heard go from Morgan. Caine.
I'll go second.
And he's going to go second, which means, Nolan, you're going to start us out here. Michael Caine, best Batman, Alfred, go.
Michael Caine made the Dark Knight trilogy one of the best things ever. His performance, his chemistry with Christian Bale, the way you actually cared about Alfred as a character, you saw that he cared for Bruce. Those crying scenes made those movies even better. You saw emotion from Alfred. You saw everything. Michael Caine is Alfred. Michael Gough is great, but at least he wasn't in Batman Forever and Batman and Robin. Michael Caine was not in those movies. Michael Caine was in the greatest trilogy of all time with Batman.
Did I say his last name wrong? How do you pronounce? Is it Michael Gough? Oh, Gough. Gough is fine.
I don't know. Gough.
I don't know, but anyway,
Michael Gough.
Morgan, whenever you're ready. Michael versus Michael.
All Michael Caine does in the Dark Knight trilogy is cry and lecture Batman. Michael Gough brings the fun. He brings a few quips with Batman. He plays off Batman very well, and he's the best part of Batman Forever and Batman and Robin. He's the most watchable part of those films. He's the only watchable part of those films. Michael Gough is what many people think of when they think about it.
Nolan, 10 seconds.
Kind of phones it in. Michael Caine brings a gravitas to the performance. He makes you fall in love with the character. He's the reason so many people like Alfred nowadays. No one remembers Michael Gough. The only way I'd remember him is from Batman Forever and Batman and Robin.
No, Morgan.
Michael Caine is the worst part of the Dark Knight trilogy. He literally gives nothing there. He doesn't bring anything to the entire trilogy. At least Michael Gough brings a bit of humour to the original Batman films.
Ooh, wow, Paul, you go first. Who would you pick?
I'm gonna go with my man Michael Caine. I thought, but I think the very last moment there, I think, true when he said he brings the humour, which I think Dark Knight could have done with.
So who are you picking?
Morgan.
You're picking Nolan. Okay, Brian.
Morgan.
Oh, you're picking Morgan. I'm sorry. You're picking Morgan. Okay. Brian?
I'm going against the grain again. I was going with Nolan.
Oh, you guys suck. Can you give me something? I have to make every hard decision on this show.
When I thought Holmesy said Nolan, I was like, oh, finally, we took the pressure off Jack, but...
All right, so we're
Sorry
split.
to the Wine family.
So we're split again. I hate the Nolan trilogy, but Nolan, I thought your argument was a little bit better for Michael Caine and what he brought to the role and how his interactions with Batman were as important as they were. So for me, I'm picking Nolan. So Nolan, you get the point. Congratulations on that round. Wow, that was a tough one.
Thanks. Hopefully Twitter likes me more now.
So Nolan, you get
great eye in that.
Nolan has 2 points. Morgan, you have 1 point. You need both of these to stay alive, and we are going to number 4. What is the best Britcom?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
What is the best Britcom?
Love Actually.
Is that like?
Oh, okay. So that may be the way we call it. In America, Britcoms are like sitcoms from Britain.
Oh, The In-Betweeners.
Oh, God.
In-Betweeners.
Outnumbered.
Okay, and In-Betweeners gets to go first, so Nolan.
The In-Betweeners is the ultimate expression of British students. It's one of the most fun series of all time. You've got great characters with Simon, Will, all of them. They're all great. The In-Betweeners has got a great cult following. It's got one great movie. It's got a great series, and it will be remembered for years to come. It's one of the best things Britain has ever done.
Time.
Morgan?
The In-Betweeners is only funny if you are of that age. If you are in a family environment, Outnumbered is where to go. It is a perfect modern British family sitcom. You watch the 3 kids grow up wonderfully. The In-Betweeners spawned that horrendous American remake. It is only funny if you are 18.
Time.
Nolan?
I completely disagree with that. The In-Betweeners is funny for ages, I'd say maybe 15 and up. I don't know, a lot of people who like this. Outnumbered, as good as it is kind of boring. The In-Betweeners gives you more outrageous fun, which is what you want from a sitcom. You don't want to be bored. You want to be laughing.
Okay, and Morgan.
Outnumbered has better writing, it's smarter, it's got a better story to it, and it is hilarious too. In-Betweeners doesn't have that much of a story. You might think it's funny. Comedy is subjective. In-Betweeners is only funny for teenagers.
Time.
When you're above that.
All right, Brian, start me off.
Oh, this is tough because I haven't watched either of these shoose. I don't know anything about them.
So basically,
I know Nolan thinks that one of them is great. They both. It's tough. I think I'm gonna go with Morgan just because I know that feeling of outgrowing something and being too old for something and it not resonating with everyone and it being very particular to a certain set of people.
Okay, Paul.
Well, can I just say first, the correct answer is Only Fools and Horses.
But what would you pick in this argument?
Well, actually, just a quick thing. Outnumbered isn't scripted. It's actually all improvised. But Nolan, for me, had the better argument for the In-Betweeners this time.
So we're split again, is what you're telling me. Okay, great.
Yeah.
So having never seen either of the two shows, for me, it was definitely about the argument. And I heard Nolan say it was great, but I didn't hear enough about why it was great. I heard characters, but for me, the character names don't necessarily mean anything, so I need more from that. And really what I heard just was it was great. But what I got more from Morgan was I heard more details about his show and more reasons why Nolan's show would not appeal to everyone. So for me, Morgan would get the point, and we are all tied up.
Oh, great.
So it goes down, guys, to this final question. And this one is an either or. You're going to want to get in quick with your answer to round 5. Here we go. Ready? What was the better soundtrack by Queen? Flash Gordon or Highlander?
Flash Gordon.
Flash Gordon.
All right. I think I heard
Flash
Morgan.
Gordon?
I heard Morgan say Flash Gordon first. So Morgan gets Flash. Nolan, you get Highlander. And Morgan, you go first whenever you're ready. And you have to look at me.
Flash Gordon is one of the most iconic cult films of all time, and Queen's soundtrack epitomises what Flash Gordon is. It's wacky, it's over the top, it's insane, and it's beautiful all at the same time. I couldn't name a single song from the Highlander soundtrack.
All right. Go ahead, Nolan.
The Flash Gordon song has almost become a joke now. It's pretty much a meme. You see so many kids just mocking it, whereas I don't think that's told up that well. The Highlander soundtrack is probably a bit better, probably appeals to more people, and Flash Gordon, I think it's become ridiculous. It's become a joke.
All right. Morgan.
To say the Flash Gordon soundtrack is a joke is to diminish one of the greatest bands this country has ever produced. Flash is one of the most bizarre songs you're ever going to find, but it fits that film so perfectly.
Time.
Nolan.
First of all, I would never say any Queen song is a joke. I think people have made that song a joke, so it doesn't hold up as well as I think the Highlander one might. Highlander could be a great cult soundtrack from Queen.
Time.
All right. Brian, what'd you pick?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to go with Morgan on this one. I think he's right. I think that the Flash one's more memorable, more iconic. Yeah.
By the way, how can you not know Princes of the Universe, Morgan, from Highlander? Now, come on, guys. I'm really disappointed in the...
That's a great song.
Paul, what did you pick, Morgan or Nolan?
Well, I actually agree for once. I went for Morgan.
And I got to tell you why I also agree with Morgan. Nolan, you gave me a lot of probably, coulds, and maybes. You said this is probably a soundtrack that appeals. It could maybe, which sounded like you didn't know the soundtrack, whereas Morgan, which sounded like Morgan was definite and he knew what he wants. That means Morgan coming from behind and wins it for sure with the round today. So, Morgan, you are our champion. Well done, sir. Congratulations.
That was difficult.
Well done, sir. Well done. Well fought by everybody today. What's that?
The correct answer is Faulty Towers, followed by Blackadder, followed by about 7 more before you get to outnumbered.
Well, I was wondering why. I was looking. I have a huge British television collection over here, and I'm like, "Are you being served?" Faulty Towers.
Yeah.
There's so many good ones, but it doesn't matter because you did win for the day. So congratulations, guys. Let's find out where we can find you. Starting with Paul, where can we find you on the internet and around the world?
On Twitter at Holmesy_83.
Wonderful. Nolan?
You can find me at Twitter at NolanDean27 and also on my YouTube channel, Nolan Dean. I do some pretty funny sketches. Also, want to give a quick shout out to my brother for letting me use his laptop for tonight.
Thank you, brother, because that came out wonderful. Nolan? Morgan?
You can find me on Twitter at the Purple Don or hosting the Horror House podcast on the Purple Don YouTube channel every other Sunday.
And keep in mind there's an underscore, right, after the Purple Dawn underscore, right?
Yeah, but you can still see it. It still comes up.
Wonderful. Brian, where can we find you and tell us about your show?
You can find me on Twitter also at Hercules. The show comes out every Friday, DVD Bunker. Basically, me and my buddy Matt, we go through my find movies that I kind of don't remember too well or maybe haven't seen in a while or maybe like and everybody else hates. We got one of those coming up this week. Talk about them, we reassess them and see.
Which one?
The RoboCop remake is coming up this week.
Good luck
So I mean,
watching
it's
that.
already cat's out of the bag. I own it. You know, all the movies that appear on the show are already here. So I mean, we know that it got bought in the fairly recent past. So plummet, but you know what? I stand by my opinions.
I own Total Recall, so I can't say much.
Well, on this past Friday,
Recall's
guys, the newest episode of DVD Bunker did drop. It's he watched Instinct, so check that out. It's available now on the channel below. And, of course, as always, subscribe to our channel for this and the other great shows that we put out, including BFF, which is Ashley and Joe Davis, our sometimes fact-checkers here on the show, do a show about the movies that you see on this program. And then Odd Shape Panel by Tom and Kimber is also a great variety show that we do, and we'd love for you to check out all of our shows, and definitely thumbs up if you like them. So thank you again for joining us today. As a reminder, we do the show because we are Screen Junkies fans. We love the Screen Junkies. So if you've never heard of them before, in the description below, you can find out how you can look at the Screen Junkies great shows like the Screen Junkie Show, Movie Fights, and others. So definitely check them out. They're fantastic. And next week, or excuse me, we're off next week. And then in 2 weeks, we return. We have Amy Awesome is rejoining us, Kimber from Odd Shape Panel, and a very special guest, Trisha Hirschberger, will be on the program live. So please come and join us in 2 weeks for another great episode of Fan Friction, and we will see you guys then. Thanks for joining us, and have a great day.